96 brought the drama and action of off-road competition to AA Kyalami over the Easter weekend. Total invites you to sit back and enjoy the excitement of Total Super Series 96. Day 1 of round 2 of Total Super Series 96 saw 2 qualifying races for all racing categories, followed by a main event. The man to beat in the quad racer category was Wikus van Deventer. Mounted on the Jojo Tanks Yamaha Banshee, the Lichtenberg dairy farmer was the lone runner in the unlimited class. A huge field in the motorcycle category saw most of the attention centered around unbeaten Alfie Cox on the Castrol Pro Action KTM. Cox brought to AA Kyalami an unbeaten record this season, with big entries and fired-up riders producing plenty of incidents. Cox had his hands full with Alan Julian on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda. The pair dominated the qualifying heats, but Julian showed that even the top riders can make the odd mistake. Easter Saturday's qualifying heats in the production vehicle and special vehicle classes produced plenty of spectacular action from likes of Kasi Couture in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Along the way, the 1 kilometer long AA Kyalami circuit also produced a couple of problems for competitors. After running the production and special vehicles in separate races for the first qualifying heats, the organisers then decided to combine the 2 classes for the final qualifying heat and the main event. The result was even more action and entertainment for a huge holiday crowd as the Heavy Metal Brigade clashed with the space frame cars specially built for off-road racing in head-to-head battles. Under the American system of an inverted grid for the finals, the quick riders in the quad racer main event on Easter Saturday found themselves starting from the back of the grid. It did not make much difference to Wikus van Deventer, who maintained his unbeaten record in the 2 qualifying heats. With half a lap of the main event, the Lichtenberg dairy farmer had hit the front of the field on the Jojo Tanks Yamaha Banshee, and the race was on for second place and top honours in the stock class. Throughout the qualifying heats, the stock class produced some rugged battles between Christo van der Merwe, Skalkberger, Clint Buckham, Andre Brunk and the Gunther brothers Sean and Glenn John. With all the stock class runners mounted on Yamaha blasters, the field was closely matched and this made for close racing. With Skalkberger up into second, Sean Gunther was locked in battle for third with Clint Buckham. It did not take long for Buckham on the number 77 machine to get past Gunther, who now had a pack of riders hot on his heels. The AA Kyalami Stadium off-road circuit was built by Total Super Series 96 race director Trevor Wheeler, and the natural bowl setting provides spectators with a view of the action all around the track. The complex is made up of 2 tracks, with the quad racers and motorcycles utilizing a layout which is a little more technical than for the production and special vehicles. As far as Wikus van Deventer was concerned, the technicalities of track layouts were irrelevant. The tough little man from Lichtenberg simply hit the front of the field and started to pull away from the pack. A terrific battle was still raging behind van Deventer. At the front of the Star Class pack, Skalkberger led Clint Buckham and Sean Gunther, who was starting to come under severe pressure from Christo van der Merwe. Although forced to start from the back of the grid, the Star Class leaders have not run into any problems working their way through the field. A mistake by Berger almost saw him take a tumble and cost him places. First, the steam past Berger was Clint Buckham. He was followed by Christo van der Merwe, who had managed to get ahead of Sean Gunther. With his long hair streaming behind him, Berger was suddenly down to 4th overall and had plenty of work ahead of him to make up for his mistake. Buckham was also in trouble when he tangled with the back marker and lost valuable seconds when the Yamaha blaster stalled. At the front of the field, there was no stopping van Deventer, who was carving his way through slower traffic. Skalkberger had made up lost ground to regain second place, but the race for third was still on between Sean Gunther and Christo van der Merwe, who was making a determined late-race charge. With main events run over 15 minutes and 1 lap, the quad races take a pounding. Skill, intense concentration and tremendous physical fitness are required to stay aboard these motorized bucking Broncos. No one was going to catch van Deventer unless he did something silly like falling off. With race distance running out, Skalkberger was still hanging on to second place, but right behind him, he had Sean Gunther and Christo van der Merwe, with the fight for Star Class honours heading for a terrific finish with 3 riders all in contention. In a class of his own, South African quad racing champion Wikus van Deventer did nothing silly on the last lap and kept his unbeaten record with a commanding main event win. Berger took second overall and the win in the start class, with Christo van der Merwe slipping past Sean Gunther on the last lap to take third overall, with Clint Buckham back in fifth place.
I think it's another easy win, it looks like, for you.
Ja, dit was nogal maklik geweest, maar as jy sê as jy op 'n draai uitgly is jy die race uit. Definitief, so ou moet maar probeer so hard ry, jy help nie om slap te lê nie. Jy's mos hier om dit te ry.
After two terrific qualifying heats, the motorcycle main event was set for a titanic battle and no one was disappointed. At the green flag, there was a mad scramble into the first corner, with the massed field representing a two-wheel charge of the Light Brigade. Once again, the inverted grid system was put into operation, and once again, it did not take long for the quicker riders to hit the front of the field. Quickly into the lead was Honda rider Brendan Crooks, with a gaggle of riders behind him, including Gary Lipschick, Alan Julian, Jeremy Davies on his big Castrol KTM 620, and Alfie Cox. The first qualifier saw Cox lose his unbeaten record this season to Alan Julian, with a terrific struggle expected between the pair in the main events. With the bit firmly between his teeth, it was Crooks who was making the early running. Crooks is the younger brother of circuit racing star Trevor, and after a season or two of riding Grand Prix motorcycles, has concentrated on motocross. Pro Honda rider Gary Lipschick slotted into second place, followed by Alan Julian on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda and Cox on the Castrol Pro Action KTM. With both Crooks and Julian short circuit specialists, Cox and other off-road and enduro stars had a battle on their hands on the tight and demanding AA Kyalami layout. A flying Cox on the number 508 machine had managed to force his way past Julian and now had Lipschick under severe pressure. The trio were locked together and already the race was living up to expectations. Apart from racing against each other, Lipschick, Cox and Julian could not afford to let Crooks open up a gap, and the pace was frenetic. For the off-roaders like Cox, the more technical aspects of the AA Kyalami circuit and the short duration of races is a far cry from the wide open spaces and long-distance events normally associated with off-road racing. Total Super Series 96 races are flat out from the word go, and the trio fighting for second place were putting on a tremendous show that had a huge crowd on its feet. Gary Lipschick was putting up a brave fight, and a slight mistake from Cox saw Alan Julian steal third place from an Italian. Brendan Crooks was still out in front, but the gap between the leader and the trio behind him was rapidly closing. There was more tension for Brendan Crooks, who had been caught by Alan Julian, and Alfie Cox moving in for the kill. Early race leader Crooks was tiring and found himself back in third place when Cox moved ahead of him on the Castrol Pro Action KTM. Now the race was on between Cox and Julian, who took the first qualifier on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda. Cox simply flew over the quicker sections of the circuit, and there was no need for Julian to sneak a look behind him. Cox was right on his tail. With the Crooks challenge snuffed out, it was a straight fight between Julian and Cox. They simply zipped past the slower rider, and then came drama. Julian dumped the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda at turn 2, and with the race distance running out, had virtually handed Cox the win on a plate. The main event win and overall for the day to Alfie Cox, with Alan Julian only 2 points behind him. Third place in the main event went to Crooks, with Greg Aspinall taking the 125 class honours.
I think for the spectators, I think they loved it. Alan, myself and Brendan, we've had a race like you cannot believe, and I think that's what they're trying to do and make it exciting for everybody, for the spectators. That's how we're going to draw the crowd. Not good for us because we need the points at the end of the day. And but at the end of the day, I think it ended up 3 good races.
And now for something completely different. The main event for production and special vehicles, and the racetrack is no place for the faints of heart, with marvellous race cam pictures from the start of the race from Cliff Barker's Land Rover. Mark Corbett and passenger in the SVM are the target for stones thrown up by the V8 Land Rover, with more of the same treatment for Craig Draper and Wade Parent in the Draper VW Sandmaster. Problems for Barker in the second qualifier saw him on the front row of the inverted grid, and the former South African champion was taking full advantage of the situation. Corbett was second in the SVM, with Mike Redden third in the diesel turbo Land Rover. Putting the pressure on Redden was Colin Frankenberg in the 4.6 Range Rover, with Draper trying to find a way around Chris Kuneke's waistcoat. Barker was still in front of Corbett's SVM, with Kuneke quickly skiving his way through the field. He was up into third and leading the special vehicle class when he soared past the red Land Rover on the quickest section of the circuit. Also charging through the field was Cassie Coetzee, who won both qualifying heats in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. This was red-blooded racing with Total Super Series 96, bringing the spectacle of stadium off-road racing to an appreciative audience. Craig Draper and Wade Perrance in the Draper Sandmaster were locked in battle with a trio of production vehicles. Cassie Coetzee zipped past in a Castrol Toyota Hilux, but the inside line at turn 2 kept Draper and Perrance in front of the Belfast tow truck operator who owned Springbok colours as a rally driver. The race order was Barker ahead of Mark Corbett, Chris Kunecker, the Frankenberg Range Rover, Draper and Perrance and Coetzee. A student who uses the SVM to and from university every day, Corbett was hanging on to second place by the skin of his teeth. Chris Kunecker was throwing the raceco all over the AA Kyalami circuit, but Corbett was doing a terrific job of holding him off. At the head of the field, Cliff Barker had a handy lead in the V8 Land Rover Defender. There was a change when Chris Kunecker finally managed to get past Corbett on the finish straight, with the raceco second overall and leading the special vehicle category. Cassie Coetzee was still on a charge in the Castrol Toyota Hilux and zipped past the Draper Perrance raceco to move into fifth place overall behind Colin Frankenberg in the 4.6 Range Rover. More tremendous race cam action as Coetzee moves in on Frankenberg. Quad Racer Supremo Vickers van Deventer was an interested spectator as Cassie Coetzee continued his charge through the field. With Chris Kunecker dropping out with the broken differential, Coetzee moved into second place overall when he muscled his way past the Corbett SVM. It was a typical Coetzee charge from the back of the field with the crowd loving every moment. Coetzee had little chance of catching Cliff Barker in the Land Rover, but second place in the main event was enough to give him the overall lead for the day in the production vehicle category. Colin Frankenberg just edged out Mark Corbett for third place and second overall. In the special vehicle category, the main event and overall honours went to Craig Draper ahead of Wolfrieter Wumfai and Max Moore.
Cliff, a bit of a day full of drama, but a win at last.
Yes, look, we had a puncture in the first heat. The second heat, we lost the front drop shaft and all the oil out the gearbox. But here we are.
You had us all worried that the Land Rover was smoking from the beginning.
Yes, the dry sump filler plug flew off. So it landed in the cave, so we knew what it was, you know.
Run in conjunction with the second round of Total Super Series 96, the Total Arena Trials Challenge provided spectators with more spectacular action, but at a less frenetic pace. The top trials riders in Gauteng put their skills to the test over two separate courses. The first was a natural course, with the second consisting of man-made obstacles. Points scored over both courses counted towards the final scoring. Trials riding is a highly specialized and skillful sport that has appealed to young riders and those who are a bit longer in the tooth. Today's trials riders get a bit peeved when you refer to the sport as foot-up trials, but the name of the game is to negotiate obstacles without taking your feet off the footrests. Points are deducted for each time a rider takes his feet off the pegs. Enough said. Trials machines are purpose-built and highly sophisticated motorcycles. A huge amount of technology has also gone into the development of tires and other equipment. Trials riders perform minor miracles on two wheels, and the sport has major spectator appeal in Europe. Top honours at the Total Arena Trials Challenge at AA Kyalami went to Bruce and Brent Larish in the Masters and Clubman categories, with Gideon Base taking the win in the Veterans class. Round 2 of Total Super Series 96 also catered for a junior motorcycle category. Run for the first time at AA Kyalami, the category is part of a development program to unearth the stars of the future. The category caters for riders from 10 to 14 years old on 85cc machines. Some of the youngsters have a little trouble reaching the ground when they are astride a motorcycle, but they are as committed as their more senior counterparts. Many of the top names in South African motorcycle racing, including triple world champion Greg Albertine, cut their competition teeth in the Flying Freckles classes. The inaugural Total Super Series 96 junior motorcycle class was dominated by Jaco Vormerand, who easily won both qualifying heats and the finals. Grant Wheeler took 3 second places, with Andries Visser, Sean Card and Jonathan Mayer sharing third places in the qualifiers and main events. Easter Sunday was another day at the racetrack for competitors in the second round of Total Super Series 96. The double-header promised to provide more hectic action, and it was the same old story in the quad racer qualifying heats. Wikus van Deventer maintained his unbeaten records, but not before he showed he was also human and parted company with the Jojo Tanks Yamaha Banshee in the opening qualifier of the day. Something a touch different from Van Deventer, and some added interest as well where the motorcycle category was concerned. Alfie Cox and Alan Julian resumed battle and finished first and second in that order in the qualifying heats, which produced plenty of the expected spills and thrills. Just to add spice to the Cox-Julian battle, motocross ace Gary Peterson put in an appearance after competing at a national championship meeting in Cape Town the day before. Peterson drove through the night to compete at AA Kyalami, but was not eligible to score points or pocket prize money. There was early drama in the production and special vehicle qualifiers when a spectacular ramp in the Castrol Toyota Hilux saw Cassie Kutsia damage his back. There were also problems for Edward Zaltzviertel, who took over driving duties in the diesel turbo Land Rover. Despite his sore back, Kutsia took the Castrol Toyota Hilux to a win in the opening qualifier. The second qualifier produced more problems for the Land Rover and another win for the intrepid Kutsia. Serious motor racing does have its lighter moments. Left unattended for a few moments, Skalk Burger's squad decided he needed a bit of a head start as the riders lined up for the start of the main event. The inverted grid with the fastest riders in qualifying starting from the back was once again in operation, and there was a shock in store for Wikus van Deventer. Unbeaten in 8 Total Super Series 96 starts, Van Deventer was slow off the line, went wide at the first turn, and coming out of turn 2, found himself at the tail end of the field. The early lead was Glenn John Gunther, who set off like a scalded cat with the rest of the start class and Van Deventer in hot pursuit. Halfway around the first lap, Gunther had opened up a comfortable gap over the chasing pack, with Van Deventer still struggling to find his way around back markers. Clint Buckham was the best placed of the more fancied start class contingent, with Van Deventer only managing to make up a couple of places in the early stages. With 15 minutes and 1 lap of racing ahead, there was plenty of time for Van Deventer to play catch-up, but for the moment, he was where he did not want to be. Having to work your way through the field means having to take the odd chance here and there, and that can spell trouble even for top riders like Van Deventer. Leader Glenn John Gunther was being chased by brother Sean, with the pack closing the gap on the pair. A mistake by Clint Buckham when he went wide at the very tight left-hander at the top of the circuit cost him a place or two. But skiving through the field was Wikus van Deventer. It didn't take the Jojo Tanks man more than a lap or two to force his way to the front, and another great display saw him maintain the only unbeaten record in Total Super Series 96. Sean Gunther held on for second place ahead of Christo van der Merwe.
Wikus, what makes you so quick?
Nee, is nie vinnig nie. Dis uithou vermoë. Kyk nou toe hulle hom 15 minute gemaak het. Die gaping word al hoe groter. Ek sal graag wil hê om dit 30 minute maak. Dit moet 'n uithou ding word. Dit sal baie lekker wees. Ek dink die mense moet kyk in die vorentoe in die toekoms vir 'n ding van 6 ure almekaar ry. Ons kyk wat gebeur of nou nie so baan nie, maar 'n uithou probeer hou op so kort baan. Dit sal baie fantasties wees.
The inverted grid was no major problem for the fancied runners in Easter Sunday's motorcycle main event. They simply blasted their way around the rest of the field and disappeared into the distance. Connie Mayer had a few anxious moments when he fell in the middle of the pack, but out in front it was Gary Peterson, the youngest in a family of famous motorcycling racing brothers. Peterson got the jump on Alan Julian and Alfie Cox at the start, and with his enormous strength showed no signs of flagging. With Peterson not eligible for points or prize money, the real battle was another head-to-head between Julian and Cox. In the previous day's main event, Turn 2 caught out Julian, and this time it was Cox who suffered when he stalled the Castrol Pro Action KTM. A flawless ride saw Peterson take the win, but in a tremendous fight back, a flying Cox just failed to catch Alan Julian on the line. Both riders sportingly acknowledged a tremendous duel, with Julian winning a battle but losing the war, with Cox again the overall winner. There were good results also for Brendan Crooks and Grant Bloomfield, with Greg Aspinall again taking the 1-2-5 honours.
Gary, nice win for you there.
Yeah, like I was saying, I didn't really get tired actually, to be honest with you, but I thought because with the TV and that, maybe we could make it a race. But I saw Alfie drop back a bit and I thought, well, if Alan's on his own, I'd rather win the race than him.
After starting Easter Sunday's main event from the front of the grid, Cliff Barker found himself at the back of the field along with Cassie Coetzee in the Sunday final. This time, the man to benefit from two disappointing qualifying runs was Colin Frankenberg in the 4.6 Range Rover. Frankenberg had the early lead ahead of Mark Corbett's SBM and the special vehicles of Max Moore and Wolf Peter Fumfai. Charging up behind them were the Heavy Brigade in the form of Barker's Land Rover and Coetzee's Castrol Toyota Hilux. Coetzee took a deep breath up the finish straight and simply dive-bombed his way past Fumfai and Barker. That took Coetzee into fourth place behind Frankenberg, Corbett in the impressive SBM and Max Moore in the VW Footloose. Coetzee was on a charge with Frankenberg and the lead firmly in his sights. Again, the former rally driver simply took a deep breath, shoved his right foot down on the gas and took the Castrol Toyota Hilux into the lead. Coetzee had another Total Super Series 96 win in the bag, but the action was far from over. With the adrenaline pumping, Cliff Barker decided enough was enough and simply climbed all over Max Moore's VW Footloose to move up into fourth place. Barker then powered past Max Corbett and closed in on Frankenberg. The race cam in the 4.6 Range Rover told its own story. Barker again chose the finish straight to come up with another passing manoeuvre that took him into second ahead of Frankenberg. The Land Rover then retired with a mechanical problem, but there was to be no catching Cassie Coetzee in the Castrol Toyota Hilux, who chalked up a clean sweep on the day. The Frankenberg 4.6 Range Rover also ran into a late problem, and Mark Corbett sneaked into second place. The clash with Barker put the unfortunate Max Moore out of the running, with Wolf Peter Fumfai taking the special vehicle category.
Cassie, almost a perfect score.
Yeah, that's one of my perfect days, especially for 2 days. I've got a great run from yesterday and today. And it was marvelous. With all the spectators and all the supporters, I couldn't believe it. It was great. It's nice to be here. And I'm looking forward for the next race.